But looks like he finally did it. Trump signs order aimed at dismantling U.S. Department of Education. So let's just watch the clip.
Are you superstitious? Ron, are you superstitious? Let's use that same pen.
Let's go back.
I'll take this one out. I had one. I was very lucky. I signed another document that turned out to be very good for the country, and I said, let's use that same pen. I don't know. Is anybody superstitious? Ron, are you superstitious? Let's use that same pen.
So that's him signing the order to dismantle, quote unquote, the Department of Education. So no matter what you thought, whether you thought it was a good idea, whether you thought it was a bad idea, well, it's done. It's officially done. Now, if you have student loans, don't get too excited. You're still going to be held to that standard. You're still going to have to pay your student loans, despite Joe Biden's best effort. But you're, I mean, they always do these things where they have like students, they're like any trying to run for gender equality, well, not gender equality, for not having men compete in women's sports. You're surrounded by women. These things are photo ops, and so yeah, there he is. Everybody's happy. Oh, yay!
Big factor here. Good luck. Good luck, man.
All right. Well, time to pop in circumstance there. Nope, wrong story. We're gonna get to that in a minute. So, flanked by students and educators, President Donald Trump on Thursday signed an executive order intended to essentially dismantle the Federal Department of Education, making good on a long-standing campaign promise to conservatives. And the order would leave school policy almost entirely in the hands of the states and of local boards, a prospect that alarms liberal education advocates. And of course, it started right here with Chuck Schumer. Attempting to dismantle the Department of Education is one of the most destructive and devastating steps Donald Trump has ever taken. Supposedly, this will hurt kids, and I know there's a lot to be said of the programs and so forth, but the statistics don't really lie. I mean, the United States spends about 5.4% of its GDP on education, which is $15,000 per student, and that is higher. About 38% higher than the world average. I guess you could call it about 11,300 per student. The post-secondary level, we spend about $37,000 per student, which is double the average at 18. Even with all that, the U.S. ranked, this is with the Department of Ed since 1970. So anybody who wants to say anything bad about, well, why would you shut this down, blah, blah, blah. Since 1970, with the Department of Education being created and going forward, the U.S. has ranked 28th in math, 12th in science, and 20th in reading in 2022. And those numbers are only going to get worse because of the COVID lockdowns. Those things absolutely were destructive to generations of students. Now, when you get into other ideas, mathematic performance in 2022, we already said that, 28th, 12th out of 37th. The U.S. topped the 2024 U.S. News and World Rankings report for best countries in educational ranking, yet its student performance on standardized tests consistently place it in the middle or lower tiers of developing nations. So for the amount of money that these United States spends on the students and on the types of performances, we don't get the results we need. And that's with a top-down educational system. And I was in it for 10 years. I was there. This time of year, I'll tell you exactly what I used to do. It's March. I'd be in the middle. I would shut down my we'd have the curriculum, and we get to the curriculum. Usually we get to a little after the Civil War, before Christmas. We come back in January. We talk about a little bit more post Civil War. And then the beginning of February, about middle of February, they take spring break. We come back. And we were told, shut it down and start standardized testing. What does that mean? It means Rick Barrett found websites that had mock STAR tests, which here in Texas, we call it the STAR test. And Rick Barrett would print out mock social studies STAR tests, and I would give them to the students for the next 60 days. Every single class was me giving them 4 pages of a standardized test, And then I would time them for an hour. Then we'd go over, hey, this is, look how you look at this question. Look how this answer's phrased. This is how you answer it, anticipation. And the only reason, and we did this in social studies, science, English, math, all four core curriculums, drill. We would drill for 2 months because the STAR tests are usually in April. So say whatever you want. And most teachers won't tell you that. They'll say, oh, I care for my students. It's always them. I care for my students and I do this for my students and I do that for. Do you really? Or do you just do whatever you can to continue? Steph's not going to like. Steph asks, why do we lag? Unions. Teachers unions. We lag because of teachers unions. We also lag. It's actually 2. I'm going to split the baby on this one again, Steph. You always make me split the baby on these and I don't mind. Good evening, Michael Mendez. How are you, sir? Great to see you. Hopefully I said your last name correctly. First one is unions. Second one is No Child Left Behind. Atrocious bill by George W. Bush. Should not have ever, hopefully, and that goes away now. Hey. Then glad to see you, Michael. And so the whole point is that everybody messes up the idea of education when it's top down. Unions are terrible. No Child Left Behind is terrible. You don't want me to use the term split the baby? It's a biblical term. I'm just using okay, I'll use a different one. I'll split the pizza. How about that? See, I work for you guys. Steph tells me not to do something and I don't do it because I work for you. But the fact of the matter is it's more than just unions and No Child Left Behind. We have we lag behind India. We lag behind Japan. Because those places have family structures in place. None of the other developed countries in the West have a single child or single family model like the U.S. has. The U.S. is overloaded with single parent households. And that's absolutely the problem. You can do whatever you want in education, but if the family structure at home is crap, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Yeah, right. I'm not scared of Steph. I want to make sure she sticks around because she's my token liberal. And it looks good on my stats. So the fact of the matter is that without a strong family structure, schools are useless. And I know people don't want to hear about that because the fact is we want to think we can throw money at the problem. Well, we can't throw money at the problem because we've thrown $15,000 per student on average, and the numbers don't work because moms are working 2 jobs to try and trying to provide, and the students by themselves, and then they can't get help, and then they can't get resources. And like I said yesterday, a lot of Title I schools, the only time these kids eat are at the school for breakfast and lunch. So it's really not that's the problem. It's family. It's the family structure. Society can never overcome a family structure that is in disarray. So that's the solution. Unfortunately, it'll never happen that way, but it is what it is in that regard. So yes, Trump has shut down the Department of Education. Going back to the States is probably a good idea because the Department of Education is just a waste of money. It hasn't done anything productive.